I think I've always been very successful in my career, navigating it myself and moving forward. But I think at a certain point, it really struck me that I needed people that were as good at helping me build a career and finding the next opportunity as I am at my job, right? And so I think I took a step back and I said to myself, I don't spend all the time in the world on this activity, right? I do this once very infrequently, usually under a decent amount of stress. It's not the core competency I have. And when I think back on my own, I say, like, stick to your core competency, stick to your mission, right? Don't get distracted by things you can do, but you shouldn't. And so finding somebody that was as good at, helping me build a career map, helping me figure out the ways to look my best in front of the next opportunity really seemed like the smart idea to help me be successful. I talked to 3 different companies. Most of them are just people, right? They're not really just companies, but one was kind of more of a very structured resume, LinkedIn, no coaching, cost effective kind of deal that was like more nuts and bolts. And then the other one was the kind of the other extreme, which was all career coaching, not really resume and LinkedIn, but more like connection building and talking about career path. I think it was more designed around people transitioning or pivoting in their career a bit more. I'm not really doing that. I wasn't really doing that. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, those options probably would have worked fine for me, but I don't think I would have gotten the key elements of what eventually enabled me to be successful, which was concentrated focus on leveling up my communication and, without lack of a better term, selling myself to the people I was talking to in those rooms. Coaches are fantastic. The folks that I interacted with really cared, were interested in not just, getting the 30 minutes or hour to session done, but really interested in making sure I was successful. I think a lot of them I will stay connected with as I go forward because they're great professionals, on top of the fact that they were helpful in this process. At the end of the day, it's a people thing, right? This is about the people that are helping you. This is about the people you're interacting with. And so I think this was a great group of professionals that had a very kind of broad range that helped me see a lot of different angles. The number one primary, and I think most important in the success of getting the next role, was leveling up how I took high level thoughts and articulate them clearly and concisely. I have a tendency to kind of be very thorough and maybe explain a bit too much. And I think one of the techniques that I learned was to organize that communication in a way that really kind of set executive, kind of showed leadership, rather than just pointing out the kind of ABCs of how that works. That was the one by far. My ability to kind of see what's acceptable in terms of networking and understanding how people really do communicate through platforms like LinkedIn and just, in general, when you're working with folks to find opportunities. I think that was huge. The resume and LinkedIn stuff definitely helped. I had done a really great resume, I had thought, for many years, but at the end of the day, I don't think it was optimized to get noticed by a machine. It was optimized to be human readable and really successful. And I think the LinkedIn profile stuff was hilariously effective. I think within 24 hours of working and optimizing it per the kind of the recommendation, I had like 3 or 4 people reach out to me cold. And so I think what happened was I got optimized in all their searches looking for people. They just reached out to me. And so I had like 3 or 4 people. None of them ended up being the job I went for, but the networking was much more powerful in terms of getting the right place. But it just shows, traffic and that many opportunities. The more opportunities that come through, the more chance of, catching a fish, right? One of the things that people often do is they look at a program or they look at any service and they go, okay, well, how much does it cost compared to other things? And I think one of the things that I took a second to really do with this is really look at the benefit in what I was doing, right? So it's like, I chose this career coaching program because it was the right tool. And at the end of the day, it well eclipsed, in terms of salary specifically, what I was going for. I think I hit nearly 25% above what I had originally talked to you about and what my kind of Northstar was at. It really did help me get there. In terms of professionalism and speaking the voice allowed me to get the role, reporting directly into a CEO for specifically an IT executive is not the easiest challenge in the world. A lot of CEOs don't find value. So sniffing out that company and making sure that my voice was seen at that level was huge for me. And yeah, I think I absolutely hit all the check boxes. The thing that I almost had to be hammered into me by some of the folks on your team were that people want to help people. And so my apprehension specifically, and I know a lot of people that are like this, are around bugging people or trying to, use them or things like that. But the truth is, at the end of the day, people want to be helpful. And so if they can help you get a job, or they know, or they're willing to do it, especially if your circumstance and, they have experience with you and you're fundamentally have worked with them and they know you pretty well, that is something they want to do. And I had myself in the same boat when people reach out to me and say, hey, do you know this person? If I do, I want to help them. And I don't really take into account a lot of the things, like I don't reach out to them regularly or things like that, or they don't reach out to me regularly. And I think getting over that hump and understanding that was a big piece for me. And I think anybody who's afraid to network should probably try and put themselves in the shoes of the person they're networking with. They probably don't network as much as they should either. It's an opportunity for them to connect with somebody that, and that shoe may be on the other foot. And I think a lot of people think about that. And so you shouldn't be ashamed or worried about reaching out. So I think one of the things you should tell people up front about this program is that you can take a long time to do it. You can, but realistically, you should invest in the time into yourself. You have, in general, people have no problem working 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours on a work day to get a job done. Put even half of that amount of effort into yourself for these tasks, and you move quickly. And that amount of work that you don't usually put in for yourself, you need to prioritize that, because at the end of the day, nobody's looking out for your career more than you are. Even with coaches, right? So you've got to put in the work. They can only guide. You have to spend the time, and it's worth it, right? And so I think it's not necessarily that it has to be all the time stacked up every single day. That's great. If you have it, great. But life happens. So just be prepared to put in the time at some point in order to move that. And I think your program is structured in a way where the more time you put in, the faster you can move.